Hey everybody, in a couple of days we're going to be sitting at the Seder, a night that the rabbis tell us is filled with awe, with light, with divine energy, with Hashem, with angels, but if you're like most, it's not that inspiring. We know the words, we know the story, the traditions seem okay, we're kind of hungry, and there's a huge disconnect between what could be and what is. So we created this series to take the experience step by step, literally, and to go in order of what we do and to try to find more insights, more meaning, more understanding, so that this year our Seder nights can be as majestic as they're supposed to be. So I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, we are entering into an incredible time. And we're about to experience a night that is maybe the most misunderstood night of the year. If you look at your life, you find many times, I don't know if it's about you, but for sure I feel this way, that there are many times in life that I feel like I missed opportunities. There are many moments that I regret because when I was going through that thing that I was going through, whether it was familial, relationships, financial, spiritual, whatever, when I was going through the thing, I didn't appreciate it at the time. And so I didn't give it the right attention. And so when it was over, I look back and I wish I would have gotten more out of it. I don't know if you feel the same way. Judaism is very much like that. Hashem gives us very unique opportunities to make major inroads in our soul, to create incredible bracha for ourselves and our families and our lives. And we miss them. And we miss them because we approach them with a mindset that is partially secular, meaning we live in the regular secular world, and unless you're living in a cave somewhere, you probably, like me, have a mind that has a mix of spirituality and physical, material, mental, emotional, and the way in which we see the world sometimes doesn't align with what we're doing from a Jewish perspective, and so then we miss opportunities. One of the greatest nights of opportunity that we frequently miss is the Seder. And the Seder presents us with things that it's hard to even understand, right? Seder is great. And it's an incredible thing that it has been and continues to be a ritual that the larger Jewish community has embraced, right? If you look at the larger, vast Jewish community, lots and lots and lots of people that are not connected all have some sort of Seder. And if you look at it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you think about what the Seder is supposed to do, it's supposed to enable us to remember the story of Mitzrayim, right? Egypt, the formation of our nation, all the good stuff. But if you look at it, it doesn't really do a lot of that. The story's pretty easy, right? You look at the Torah, it's not a Masorah, it's not a tradition, it's not in the Midrashim. It's not like the story of Avraham that walked through the Kibshon HaEsh, that it's in a Med. It's not like that. It's black and white. Open up Shemos and just start going through it. It's so dramatic. It's so engaging that if you think about the day or the night, so to speak, you should really just sit around the table, open up a Chumash, and go line for line. It's 2 or 3 parshas and you're done. It's not like that at all. There's things that we do when we're dipping and getting up, and then we start the thing and we say, well, you read it and then you should read it, and we have questions. And even when we get to the Seder, it's not even really the story. We don't take it out of Shemos. We take it out of Devarim through a thing called Mikra Bikurim, which is what a farmer says years later when he brings new fruits to the Beis HaMikdash. And then we have Dayenu, and we're eating things and we're leaning. It is such a complex environment that for most of us, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so we do what we do all the time almost, right? We sort of nod through it, find moments that inspire us, and speed through the rest, depending on whatever Seder you're in. Or we pause and go really deep into one thing and spend a lot of time on it, and then we just keep on going. Or we just sort of nod and do the things we don't fully understand. And we miss what is supposed to be the most magical night of the year. The Baal Shem Tov says that on Seder night, the gates of heaven are open wide and every Jew can ascend spiritually, leaving behind personal limitations and entering true freedom. If you go through the tzadikim, and I have them in front of me right here, that's why I'm reading them, it's unbelievable. The Kedushas Levi says that the Hashem himself rejoices in every single Jewish home. The Rabbi Nachman says it's the source of emunah, and you can draw faith directly from divine revelation. The Alter Rebbe says you're given an incredible amount of siyata d'shmaya to break your personal constraints. The Kutzker says that you have an incredible capacity to declare yourself free and to be free. One after the other. The Sfas Emes says that on the Pesach night, a great light descends into the world, illuminating every Jewish soul, empowering us to overcome our spiritual darkness. Like, if you look around and try it, do it yourself. Read Svarim, search, ChatGPT, do whatever it takes. If you Google and just see what tzadikim have been saying about the Seder, it doesn't make any sense. It's beyond. It's a night full of light. It's a night that can illuminate our soul. It's a night that gives faith to ourselves and to our family. It's a night where we break all the spiritual barriers. It's a night in which our family comes together. It's an incredible, magical, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once-in-a-yearly opportunity. But it doesn't really feel like that, if you're being honest. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Why? So I want to delve in with you a little bit here. And with Hashem's help, we're going to be doing a series where I'm going to, with Hashem's help, taking each part of the Haggadah in the process, and we'll go through it together. And hopefully you'll stick with me. And nothing I say is from me. You should know that. It comes from Svarim and Baruch Hashem a few of them. There's a great sefer called the Panini Chasidus that's like a likud of all the Chassidim. It comes from other classes that I've gotten. It comes from Safari. It comes from lots of sources. So nobody should think for 1 second that I have this in any way on my fingertips. And it comes from people greater than me. But if you put the pieces together on your own, or you do it together, we do it together, we have to delve deeper to understand what's really going on. In a way, we have to almost like, look at the sea of the Haggadah, the sea of the Seder, and put on scuba gear and go deep. And I want to begin by understanding a concept. When you think about why we have a Seder, the answer that you will typically hear is to tell the story of Mitzrayim, to tell the story of Egypt, of Exodus. But that doesn't make a lot of sense, as we said, right? Everybody knows the story, right? Hollywood even took a shot at it, although they butchered it, but at least they took a shot at it, right? Like, it's pretty, in most Siddharim that you're going to go to, the people that show up at the Siddharim know the story. Like, when you go to a Seder and you see like a bunch of little kids around, they all know the story. Like, they're preparing. They roll in with like, a truck full of stuff. They've got Haggadahs. They're preparing for weeks and months. Most people do not roll into the Seder being like, oh my gosh, what? Did they get out? Wait, and that 10 play? Oh my God. And the sea split? Like, you gotta be kidding. Like, most people roll into the Seder and they know this part. So then what's the point? If the goal is to tell the story, then what's the point? If you know the story. So Rav Noach Weinberg has a great class on this idea of storytelling. And he says one of the greatest storytellers was a man named Nathan Hanavi, Nathan the prophet. If you remember the story, one of the famous stories is the story of David HaMelech. And David HaMelech had the situation with Bathsheba and Uri HaChiti, in which he ultimately took Bathsheba as a wife, in a way that, even though the Gemara tells us very clearly, was appropriate, and Bathsheba, so to speak, belonged to him. I was talking to Rabbi Levi about how Bathsheba was his actual soulmate, and we can go through a whole class on that to itself. But either way, he didn't do it in the way that Hashem wanted. And so the famous story goes where Nasra Navi comes into the audience of the king, and now he has to deliver this message to the king. So what does he do? How does he tell the king that he took Bathsheba in the wrong way? He took his wife in the wrong way. So he tells a story to him. And he says, there's a story of a guy who, there's one rich man and one poor man. This is, in the Navi. And the rich man had lots and lots of sheep, and the poor man had one little lamb. It was like a daughter to him. He slept in the bed, ate out of his hands, sat by the table, And one day, this rich man had a huge feast, and he didn't want to take from his flock. So he went to the poor man's house, took the one lamb that he had, slaughtered it, and fed it to his people. And David HaMelech heard this and went, what? What kind of person is this? Chayev. Right? And Nassan says, you're that man. You have all these wives. You're a king. Uri's got one wife, and you go take her. Now, pause for a second, and let's analyze what just happened. Was Nassan sharing with David any new information? Not at all. It was the same facts. So what was he telling him a story for? The story wasn't for the facts. Who cares about the lamb, the person? It wasn't even real. The story was for the narrative. A narrative is the underlying theme of the story. There was a narrative. There was a lesson. Something happened in the story that the facts rested on. In psychology, this is called the narrative transportation theory, where when you hear a story, it's not the facts that draw you in. It's you align with the characters. And so what they're going through, you go through. So you understand the struggles. So you see the lessons. So you learn things that you couldn't learn if I present facts. If Nassan would have walked in with a bunch of facts, he has this wife, you have these wives, he wouldn't have learned it because he needed the emotion. He needed the characters. He needed the journey. The Seder isn't about the facts. The Seder isn't about what took place. We know what took place. And so if the goal was opening up a Chumash and just reading it through, we know the story. The goal of the Seder is the narrative. It's the themes. It's the lessons. There are core narratives that make us a Jewish people. And those core narratives apply to us today just as much as they applied to us a long time ago. Seder is when the rabbis designed an experience that was really complex, experiential, reading, understanding, or eating, drinking, dipping. It's a full-on educational experience, not for the story. The story rests on the narrative. They did it for the narrative because every moment has a theme and every nuance matters. And when you go through it, you come out a different person. When you go through this Seder, you gain things, right? As the Kedushas Levi says, Kol inyane halayla hazeh. All the matters of this night, hakol kidei lahachdir emunah chaya b'lev adam, is to infuse a live faith in a person. So how is it? So that's what we're going to explore together. The themes, the lessons, the reasons, the purpose. Because that's what this is really all about. We know the story. But do we really know? And are we really living with the narrative? All right, hope you stick with us and let's go. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for this series. I hope that you enjoyed and I hope that it enhances your Seder and brings you closer to Hashem. We have some cliff notes for you in case you want a Seder companion. You can download it. Check out the series and the downloadable stuff at pesach.us. pesach.us. And hope you have a great holiday. And may we see the full redemption soon.